Hi, everyone. This is Gary Wilson, and welcome to tonight's live webinar for Path to Profit. So this is the investor agent students, flipping students, and rental students. We haven't actually published property management yet, but we probably will be doing that in, I'm going to guess, late April, May. And we're kind of holding off on wholesaling for the moment as far as a training program that you guys can participate in. And the only reason is I've gotten word, this is back a few months ago, that the states of Ohio and New York are working on legislation to basically ban wholesaling as a way to invest in real estate. But regardless, right now, you still can wholesale almost everywhere. The challenge is how do you do it with a license? And you can actually wholesale with a license. There's certain things you have to know. But again, it's an entire program all on its own. We do touch on it in the investor agent training program, so you at least have an idea of what you're getting involved with. And I think, I forget the module that's in. I think it's module 5. I can't remember exactly. Maybe there's parts of it in module 2 and module 5. The bottom line is you really need to know what you're doing before you get involved in wholesaling. Okay, so we're kind of hold off on that to see what happens with the new legislation that should be coming out. So in any case, back to tonight's subject. We're going to go over the booklet, which was one of my favorite techniques. And you can see here, this is the actual Word document that contains the very first original draft of the booklet. And it's actually kind of a rough form. It still worked, but we've had a lot of people modify it over the years and improve it. We have seen several versions just in the last couple of months from people taking it and customizing it and making it a better product and a better tool. So I always like to see that, of course. In any case, before we get into the booklet itself, I want to go over sources of contact information. So let's look at some of that. Let's see, that was PPR. Now, where's the, hang on one second here. There's another, here it is, bizjournals.com. So here's one that I used early on, and I'm going to plug this in so you actually can see it. So hang on one second. Let's go over here and do a new panel. Plug this in. This is bizjournals.com, okay? And this is one of the ones I actually mentioned in the class. You don't actually have to do this anymore. I mean, you can do it if you want, but the bizjournals.com, that's the link up here on my address bar, bizjournals.com, is a website, and it's actually created by and owned by Deloitte & Touche. Okay, it's one of the big accounting firms in the world. And on there, you can actually purchase what's called the Big Book of List. Okay, and by the way, the Big Book of List is available in most major cities and some of the secondary markets. Major city, of course, would be, Phoenix, LA, San Francisco, you name it, okay? Secondary city would be something like Pittsburgh, for example, okay? So in any case, you can purchase the Big Book of List. And for some reason, my computer is acting very slowly here, but normally it pops up. Usually it's on the right-hand side, and it's not jumping out at me, but let's just type this in. Big Book of List. And let's see what comes back at us, because normally there's a panel, like a sales panel, right on the screen, and gives you an option to purchase the Big Book of List. Or just search results, Big Book of List. Well, this internet service is really slow here. And by the way, I always purchase the upgraded version, but doesn't mean that it's perfect. So, in any case, here's our Big Book of List on the way. Let's just see what they say about this. And this is going back to December 24th. And I just want to give you a rough idea what's available here. You can purchase it. It generally costs, I think in the past it was maybe like $180 to purchase it. And what I realized is over the years I was able to operate just as effectively without the Big Book of Lists by using the phone book. Any case, what all this is saying here is in St. Louis, the big book of lists is on the way. All these ads are starting to drop down here, so that's not really helping us much. But normally there's a way you can purchase this big book of lists. Let's see if they give it to us. Here it is, big book of lists. Big book of list showcases local businesses, big and small, new and old. Contains more than 57 total lists covering the region's important industries in financial services, private companies, healthcare, real estate, you name it. The list goes on and on and on. And what they generally do is there's bunches and bunches of lists. In this case, 57 lists. And on this list, they generally give you the top 25 performers in every category. Okay, so if you're looking at real estate agents, they'll give you the top 25 real estate agents, top 25 real estate brokerage companies, top 25 commercial brokers, and they will give you all the person's names, numbers, email addresses, and physical addresses. Okay, you can see there's a downloadable option for $200. It's gone up. The price has gone up, and you get at least 2,300 contacts, and with everything else, they give you a total of 6,000 contacts. So you can see why this is such a valuable tool. Now, if you don't want to spend $200, okay, you can just use a phone book. It's just a lot more work to go through the phone book. The other thing about the big book of lists, guys, is remember it's giving you the top 25 performers. So if you're looking for a dentist, you want to focus on the top 25 dentists who obviously do the best business and make the most money. Okay, that's just an example of how we use it. So the reason I'm showing you this is when we're going to show you the booklet here in a few minutes. So when you use the booklet, you want to send it to these professional people. And if you remember from the class in the market centers, there's certain groups of people that you want to direct your efforts at. And I'm going to give you that list now in case you don't remember it. So everybody make sure you have your pen and your pencils handy and paper, okay? The first group of people that I like to work with that demonstrated consistently over time to be good investors are chiropractors. Chiropractors make great investors. All right, the next group of people are your dentists. Dentists make great investors. Of course, that means orthodontists as well. Turns out, and those guys like to buy rentals, by the way. Turns out teachers make great investors. They like to flip homes typically. I know teachers that own rentals too, but they tend to lean towards flipping because they don't have salaries like a lot of people do, or big salaries, I should say, and they try to do a lot themselves. So they're hands-on, and they are not afraid of doing remodeling. Other public servants include firemen and policemen. They make awesome investors, okay? They'll do anything. They'll do rentals, they'll do flips. They're very hands-on. They're usually pretty savvy and familiar with the areas, okay? Engineers, I love the engineers. They make great investors. They do an excellent due diligence when they're investing, so they make great decisions. Okay, and of course, one of my other favorites is airline pilots. I love working with airline pilots. They also are not afraid to take action, and they make pretty good decisions. They also are pretty disciplined too. So, in any case, those are the groups of people. So you won't find airline pilots on the bizjournal.com, for example, but it doesn't matter. There's other ways to find airline pilots, okay? In any case, if you don't want to buy the big book of lists, of course, you can always go to your local phone book. And it's still published every year. It's still yellow. There's multiple vendors that provide phone books these days. I just like the good old-fashioned Yellow Pages because it's alphabetical and it has all the vocations in there, okay? That's for your professionals and your business owners, all right? Now, what I want to show you next is a great way to narrow your search activities, okay? So let's say you want to focus on engineers, all right? I want to start with this here. This is the BRB Publications website. You can see the website address right up there. And again, we went over this briefly back in January just as a source of information, but I'm gonna apply it directly to a particular group tonight so you see how to use it. So let's look at I know we have a lot of Floridians on the phone, on the webinar, excuse me, so let's just pick Florida here. So I'm going to pick Florida. Okay. And let's say we want to, what do we want to find here? There's all kinds of stuff you can find. Look at this. Business entities, trademarks, judgments, liens. You can find people, who have been incarcerated, ex-cons. You can go to recorded documents. There's all kinds of stuff in recorded documents. Let's click on that and see what's available. And what I'm getting at here is, you can look at all kinds of documents, liens, marriage records, mortgages, notices, all kinds of notices. All right, notice of contest of a lien, probate documents. That's your decedents. Okay, you can look all this stuff up, but let's get out of here because I want to see if there's something on here that I want to look at that I want to show you. I think I may have already saved it. Actually, I think I did. Okay, the bottom line is this, guys. Going backwards here, on BRB publications, what you do is you click on the state wherever you are, and you go into that state's menu of what's available, and you'll see there's also, you can look by county. Here, look, you can find divorce records, marriage certificates, all kinds of stuff that's available to you, okay? But here's the one I wanted to look at tonight. This is Florida Department of Business and Professional Regulation. Okay, every state is going to have a website just like this. Every single state has it. Sometimes it's called your State Incorporation Bureau. Okay, and you can find all kinds of stuff on there that has to do with professionals, professional licensees. So you've got doctors, dentists, teachers, of course, realtors, nurses. All those people have a license to operate. All right. And let's say you wanted to find out, let's say you want to focus on engineers. So let's see if we can find information on engineers here. And I like engineers because there's a lot of them. There's all kinds of types of engineers. There's ceramic, electrical, mechanical, civil, industrial, nuclear. It just goes on and on and on, right? So we're going to search by, let's search by city or county because we don't want to see thousands and thousands of engineers. So license category. So follow with me here. This is going to be true, obviously in Florida because that's the state we're looking at here. But in every state in the union and also in Canada, you can look this information up. So let's look for, we want engineers. Here's engineers. Okay. And let's see. We want to see license type. Let's just say professional engineer. Okay. And instead of going city, I think city could be kind of small. Let's try county. Let's go for Brevard because I'm going to be down there in May. And I'll say, yes, I want to include historic licenses. So let's click search. So we're looking for professional engineers in Brevard County in Florida. Let's see what happens. And this is, we're living on the wild side here because I haven't done this for this particular county in this particular group. You can see here, here's all the engineers in alphabetical order in Brevard County in Florida. And look at how many A's there are. I mean, this goes, look, 148 pages, guys. 148 pages of engineers just in Brevard County in Florida. You get their license number. You can see if they're active. But let's click on their name and see what else we can see. Okay. Excuse me. I get to see what I wanted to find out. I can see that this guy got his last license in 2006. It's due to expire in another year, actually just a little bit more from a year from now. So it's an 11-year license. And he may have just gotten that license for the first time in 2006, all right? Actually, it says there he was qualified in 2005. So this guy's been in business for 10 years, all right? Now, the reason this kind of information is important is we know, for example, with chiropractors and dentists who've had their license 3 to 5 years, they're more inclined to want to invest in that time frame. In the 3 to 5 year mark, that's where you're going to find more chiropractors and dentists who want to invest in real estate. So how do we use this now? Well, here's how we use it, okay? You want to use the booklet, and let's say you want to focus on engineers, and you're going to have to pick your engineering group because there's a lot of types of engineers, all right? I would focus on something like electrical engineers or mechanical or just one particular type of engineer. Now, assuming that's the case, as you can imagine, just by looking here in Brevard County, 148 pages of engineers. Let's go back, and how many are per page? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 per page times 148, so that's 1,480 engineers. That's a lot of engineers, guys. So what I would do is I would focus on one particular type of engineer, and the good news is many of you actually already know an engineer. All right, and if you know a mechanical engineer or a ceramic engineer or an industrial engineer, or in the case of if you're up around Daytona, all right, Cocoa Beach, of course you're going to have a lot of aeronautical engineers up there. All right, but you need to focus it down because you're not going to be able to service 1,480 engineers. You can maybe service 14 or 15 engineers, and that's all you need. So what we'll do is we're going to take our booklet. Okay, we're going to go to either the phone book, or and if you want to do the bizjournals.com deal and buy that big book of lists, by all means do that. You can focus on only the top performing chiropractors, for example. All right. Now, what you want to do is go to the database of licensees who are chiropractors and see who's had their license for 3 to 5 years, and only send your booklet to those people. Okay, so I want to pause here and let that sink in, and I'm going to repeat it. The way to really maximize your efforts and increase your return on time, energy, and money spent in this business is to don't just focus on a group of people blindly. Don't just focus on engineers. Narrow it down to a particular group. You can, if you don't want to use bizjournals.com and spend the $200, you don't have to. Go to your phone book. Look up engineers, okay? And look for the ones who are close to you. You can even Google them, engineers in your zip code, for example. Then what you do is you go to your licensing database, figure out which ones have had their license for 3 to 5 years, and you can also go to the database that has business entities, okay? And you can find out by business name who the engineering firms are. Sometimes they're HVAC firms, things like that. But the bottom line is you're only going to now send your booklets to only those people who are doing well in their industry, in this case electrical engineers, for example, or chiropractors, if that's the case. Only those who are doing well and also have had their license for 3 to 5 years. Now you're niching within a niche, and niching again based on length of time they've had their license. And the reason I mention that is we know from experience people, professionals, chiropractors, for example, who've had their license 3 to 5 years and are making money are the ones most likely to want to invest in real estate. So that's why, and that's who you want to send your booklets to, okay? Okay, so far so good. Before I get into the booklet, let me do a quick check here and see if we have any questions. Okay, let's see. Scott Mosley, hey brother, logged in late. Hey Scott, how you doing, buddy? All right. Negotiating a contract. Well, that's good news. Okay, let's see. Peter says, since I already sent 50 booklets to chiropractors and dentists near me, should I relook at the list and look at most profitable? Yeah, I tell you what, Peter, I would, excuse me. First off, I would focus on one group of people. Focus on dentists or orthodontists, if that's the case. That's the niche group within dentists. Or focus on chiropractors. And if you can find your licensing database up in the Boston area, it's actually at the state level. I'm sorry. Go to your Massachusetts Incorporation Bureau, and they might have a different name, like Massachusetts Department of Business Professional Regulation, right? Business and Professional Regulation. Look for the database that has licensing. You're going to be on there as a realtor. You're actually going to be on that database. And what you can do is look. You can usually do a search by date. If not, though, just do a search by chiropractor or just dentist. And if you can narrow it down by zip code or city, that's even better, because you're going to have a lot of those guys in your area. And what you're looking for is essentially people who've had their license 3 to 5 years. So you can narrow that down even further. and you'll find that you'll get a higher response rate if you niche it down like that. Okay, so excellent question. So I would say yes. The answer is to you, Peter. I would focus on those people who you can determine are the most successful, and maybe you're in it for three. And I'm not saying chiropractors who've had their license 10 years aren't interested in buying properties. They certainly may be. If you can determine that they own their own building already and rent out the 2 apartments upstairs, for example, they might be very ideal candidates for basically using you as their realtor. Okay. In fact, sometimes you can search on your county tax assessment database. You can search by name, so you can see if that chiropractor or dentist actually owns properties other than his own home, and you can determine if he does. Well, he's probably renting out the additional space. Well, there's your avatar. There's your prime client. So, in any case, let's see. This is Deborah. Let's see. Question: 3 to 5 years being the max number of years. I think I just kind of touched on that, Deborah. Let me just go over that. I didn't realize you had the question out there, but I kind of stumbled across the answer perhaps. So 3 to 5 years, it turns out in our experience, that's the optimum time frame for people owning their license, and it's an indicator that they would be more likely to want to invest in real estate. That happens to be the core group of people with their license 3 to 5 years. Again, but I don't want to suggest that people who have their license for 4 years or more don't want to invest. They certainly could and would. It's just that group of people, they're looking maybe for their first building. That's the point there. Those guys are looking for their first building where they can practice and have additional spaces they can rent out for profit, and that would help them cover their costs. That's a lot of times why they're doing it. They're looking to keep their costs down. They realize they buy a professional building, rent out the additional spaces, and keep the best space for themselves. And those are the guys that have had their license 3 to 5 years. There's plenty of chiropractors that invest and have had their license for 10 or 20 years, believe me. And if you can tap into that crowd, by all means do it. And the way you do it is by just making a good consumer out of one chiropractor. And then now you can be invited to all the chiropractor reindeer games. Okay. You'll get a lot of referrals. You can put those testimonials in the back of your booklet. You could even put on a special event for chiropractors who want to invest. Just put on a special luncheon and invite all the chiropractors in the area who make good money and have had their license 3 to 5 years. Put on a lunch for them and bring them in and show them what you can do and show them what's possible for them. So there's a good idea there. All right, let's see. This is Dana from Maine. Dana, other than some Canadians on, Dana, you're probably the northernmost student on the webinar, right? So thanks for being here, by the way. And I actually owe you a phone call because I got your message yesterday. I'm in Phoenix, so it's like 80 and sunny. So I'm not doing any surfing out here, but I'm also not doing any skiing. So in any case, Dana asks, how many engineers does it take to screw in a light bulb? Give me the answer, because I like humor. So Dana's a good broker up in Maine, guys, and a great networker. So if you're looking for people who want to invest in the Portland area, network with Dana and send him some referrals, okay? And likewise, Dana can do the same thing. So any case, moving on here. What I want to do now is let's look at the actual booklet and let's tear that thing apart. We're going to do some dissection here, okay? Let's see, that's the direct mail. We want to go to here, all right? So here's the booklet. I'm going to reduce my screen so I have the full view. So I'm not going to be able to see your questions here for a moment. All right, first things first is the cover page. I definitely want you guys to buy a photo. Don't try to use a free photo because it's going to look free. It's going to look cheap. You also want to buy a photo not just because it'll be higher quality, but also then you have the right to reproduce it. Okay. Hang on one second. Sorry, I had to sneeze. So buy a photo that you can use and reproduce over and over again, because you're going to reuse this in multiple booklets. You're going to be sending out 25 booklets every month. Okay, or if you're advanced, you'll be sending out 50 and eventually 100 if you start building a team. So buy the photo first. And I always start off with this phrase here, where the smart money is, all right? And then I give them the answer right here in, and you fill in the blank. Portland, Maine, Phoenix, Arizona, which is where I am right now, Albuquerque, which is where I'll be next week. Orlando, Florida. We've got a lot of folks on from Orlando, or Tampa. We got people on from Tampa, people on from the Atlanta area. Whatever that is, pick a skyline that matches your area and put in that town name. Trying to think who was sending me a message the other week. David Thomas from Ocala, and he was asking about, I think it was asking about Gainesville, Florida. I would say, and actually Deanna's on the webinar tonight. David, if you're on live, I didn't see your name, I apologize, but certainly you'll listen to the recording. You should have enough business in Ocala. You just Google dentists or Google chiropractors. You might want to team up with Deanna. I know she's at another business center outside of Ocala. Okay, but I would focus on where you are, because you should have plenty of business right there. And I hate to see you drive 45 minutes, to go to Gainesville. Although Gainesville will be an awesome area because you've got a university there, right? Any case, back to the class, tonight's webinar. So pose a statement where the smart money is, give them the photo, and then tell them where it is. Right here in, and you fill in the blank. And then you always provide your broker's information. You have to do this. It's based on disclosure law. And the only place I think I've seen where you don't necessarily have to do this are two places. And there's parts of California and there are parts of Canada. But in most places in North America, even if you don't have the law that says you have to disclose you're a realtor, you still want to put that information on there for obvious reasons. You need these folks to be able to contact you, and you want them to know that you're a professional, okay? So that's the cover page. The second thing is, you guys can do this if you want. It may have some value, but over the years, I learned to not put a lot into this letter, all right? This is a letter I wrote, my very first booklet. You can see it's only 3 paragraphs, so it's not that lengthy, but I don't think most people care to read it, because what they want to know is, ultimately, in any marketing, is what's in it for them. Why are they being approached? Why should they pay attention to this? And so if you can convey that briefly in this letter, I would say, remember, this is original. You can shrink this down to 1 paragraph if you want, or maybe 10 or 12 bullet items, okay? That would be much better in my opinion. Bottom line is, you want to customize this to your own, to suit yours and your client's needs, okay? So that's the number 2, put letter, and that's the letter. And all of you have this, by the way. It's in your material, so you all have it in its original Word format, okay? That's my original brokerage company going way back when. Okay, then I tell them a little bit about what's going to be in this booklet. Okay, I want to make it look somewhat professional, so I give them a brief table of contents. I give them an article. I give them some properties to look at, and I show them some alternative ways to buy properties. And then I give them some related services at the end. Okay, and if you notice, I put contact information almost everywhere. All right, so here's the next thing I did. I gave them a little description of a property I bought, what I bought it for. I gave them a description of, when I owned it, I did some remodeling. I told them what I sold it for, and I gave them everything. I'm going backwards now, so don't worry. I'm not trying to drive you crazy. I just want to show you essentially what was in this little story. That's basically what it was a story. Okay. And actually, I ended up turning this. The reason it says it looks like an article, because I turned this into an article, and I published it with my local RIA group. Okay, and actually got business out of that. So there's a big hint there. So if you use this technique, and because you're on this webinar, I assume you want to learn more about it, I highly recommend it. A lot of the material that you have, marketing material, is you can use it for multiple purposes. Okay, you can take bits and parts and pieces of this and use it for other purposes. By the way, right up front here, you'll see that I give them some basic definitions of terms: net operating income, cap rate, cash on cash return. All right. Then I give them just the facts, just the basic meat and potatoes. Here's the property. Here's the income it was showing, the expenses. All right. Here, that's when I bought it. And then here's what happened when I sold it. You can see the rents went up. Some of the expenses went up, not much though. Net operating income and the person who bought it, what they bought it for. how much they put down, what they financed, okay, and their cap rate and the cash on cash return. And then I gave them a brief description, okay. Basically I told them, here's the bottom line. Here's what happens. I put my money down. I made $3,000 in positive cash flow on a regular basis. I got to write off depreciation. The mortgage was paid down over the years. The building went up in value, and I sold it for a good profit. So I made some really good money. Essentially, if you look at the entire payout of this property, when you include the cash flow as well as the capital gain on the sale, I turned my initial $5,000 down payment into $70,000 in profit in 11 years. I got cash flow while I owned it. I'm sorry, that's up here. And I also got tax breaks, and I also got the profits on the sale. Multiple ways to. That's why I love rentals, because I can make money so many different ways. In any case, I show them this. I demonstrate this in the booklet that I'm giving to these professionals. Could be engineers, could be dentists, you name it. That's number 3. All right, number 4 is I put in there examples of properties that I thought would make good investments. So you want to write down number 4, samples of properties, okay? And everything, I put everything in there, everything possible, all the details. I always give them the full listing with all the information, because I want people who are not tire kickers. I want real investors who understand financial data, and if either that or I will have taught them. I like the clients who actually taught in a class. I like teaching investor classes. Those students make great investors, by the way, and they're repeat clients and very loyal, and they make good decisions, and they're investing the way I advocate investing, which is very nice, okay? So in any case, I give them examples of properties that I thought would make good investments, okay? That's what all these pages are. So I'm going to skim down through these. You can see there's a number of them. Some of these are kind of old, so you can see by the prices and the rents. But again, everything's relative. Prices go up, rents go up. Everything's relative. All right. So this is all of the properties I put in there. Just a whole bunch of little small rentals. You can use this booklet for other purposes too, like showcasing potential flip properties if you want. And if you don't want to go through, showcasing rentals is easier because you have financial data, and you don't necessarily have to look at the properties. When you show flip properties, if you either have to go out there in person to look at all those properties, all right, and do the analysis on them, or what you can do is take some properties that other people have already flipped and do a brief synopsis on those and put those in there just to show them a sample, an example of what's possible. By the way, this is another multi-net. So in any case, let me repeat that. I like to use the booklet to showcase rentals. Again, the purpose is not to actually sell the rentals. The purpose is actually to encourage the viewer, the reader, to contact you because you're demonstrating you've got the information. You've got great information and great tools that they can use, okay? The inventory is going to change from month to month. Properties get sold, properties get listed, properties go into contract, okay? In any case, I give them all the information on a number of properties, and you can see there's several varieties here. This is a 6-unit building that was going for about $150,000, okay? Then I even put in here, there's another, boy, that's a nice one there, a 9-unit building, okay? 9-unit building for $400,000. Let's see. I think I put a portfolio in here. In fact, I did. Here it is. So here's a sample of a portfolio, all right? And you don't need the point in here is not to show you what a portfolio looks like. All it is a spreadsheet with multiple properties. That's all it is. Spreadsheet of multiple properties, okay? So put that in there because some people like to buy bulk, properties in bulk. Some people like to buy portfolios, which is what this was. This was a portfolio, all right? So in any case, I go through all of that. And then what's not in here, by the way, is I realize it's not in this example, is I would also give them a, I would fill out the cash flow worksheet on those properties. and include the cash flow worksheets in with the booklet. And I'd also sometimes give them blank ones, blank cash flow worksheets to fill out themselves. So the reason I like to fill them in initially is, even though it violates my rule of not doing the analysis for the investors, the whole point of this booklet is to entice them to call you and work with you, because you're demonstrating that you've got the knowledge and the skills. And you've also got the inventory, and you've also got the tools to help them make good decisions, okay? So in any case, just remember, write that down. I would include a calculator like this one back here. So here's let's see, here's a cash flow worksheet coming up. Actually, here's the opportunity evaluator. So in other words, I would fill this out and put it in there. Okay, that's an example of one calculator. Here's one that's an online website you have access to as part of the program. You can fill this out and print it out and put it in your booklet. Or you can do the real simple formula, which is right here, your cash flow worksheet. Your rents, your expenses, that's how you figure out your net operating income. And your cash flow is minus your mortgage payments, okay? So you can put that in there, all right? So back to what I was saying, you could put these, and you should put these in your booklet when you're going over your booklet, okay? So let's go back to the booklet. Now I'm getting close to the end. Now what I want to do is I want to give them testimonials from other consumers whom I've helped. You can see here's a guy from, he's actually from, well, I can't tell you where he's from because it's top secret. Although he gives you a hint. Some of you know what CPS means. Great investor. Let's see, here's a pilot. In any case, the bottom line is I just put testimonials in there, just a few, to show people that other people have worked with me and they're successful, okay? The last thing I do is I kind of wrap it up with a little bit of a summary with my sales pitch, all right? Now, this booklet, particular one, was geared towards doctors. I will tell you, if you notice, back about a half hour ago, I told you the list of people. I gave you the list of people that I thought made the best investors. And if you notice, doctors was not in that group. I'm not saying they don't invest, and they do, and they can make great investors. I just found out that it was easier for me to work with the other folks than it was the doctors. The doctors typically took more time. They didn't have time to do their own analysis. These other guys will. Doctors, they have other people work for them, and sometimes they would just rather pay to have people do this stuff for them, okay? So in any case, I wrapped it up, and I would kind of appeal in this case to the doctors in the area. Turns out I got doctors to work with me using this booklet, but I got a lot more chiropractors and dentists than I did doctors. That's why I focused on those groups. So in any case, that's the anatomy of the booklet. Another thing that's not in here is I actually provided some vendors, like a lender, an insurance guy, a contractor, that I would get from the investor groups. In other words, I would go to the local ACRE meetings or local RIA. RIA is Real Estate Investors of America. ACRE is American Congress of Real Estate, right? And I could find out who the good plumbers were, who the good carpenters were, who the good pest control people were. And I would get 2 or 3 recommendations, and I would provide those in my booklet. Even if I didn't, I would still give it to my consumers, because I want them to feel like that they have available resources to help them remodel their properties and insure them and so forth, and finance them, okay? I didn't get anything out of that, by the way. I was very careful to make sure people understood I'm not necessarily recommending any particular vendor. What I'm doing is I'm giving them names and numbers of people who I have heard done a good job, and that's how I phrase it. So you're simply just, you're not recommending, you're just making a referral, and you could give them a couple of different names and numbers and email addresses for them, for your client to pick from, okay? So let me do a quick pause here, bring my panel back over, and look for questions. So hang on one second. Let's go, I'll work my way backwards. How's that? This is Ken. Hey, Ken. So Ken says, so Gary, the obvious question is, how do we, with no prior experience, create a booklet like yours? So what I would do, Ken, I would still use the booklet. Plenty of new students and new agents and people who've never even invested use the booklet. If you don't have your own example of a duplex you bought or a flip, just use my example. Or you could also take an example, excuse me, from your office, because once a property is sold, the information on that is public information. So you can find the realtor in your office who helped somebody do a duplex or do a flip, or maybe they've done one themselves, and just ask them for 3 paragraphs. That's all you want, just a real short story with the basic information, and you put that in there, and everything else is readily accessible. In other words, you can go online and find possible inventory for the people reading the booklet. So you would find the inventory, the sample inventory again. And remember, the inventory is not necessarily there to be sold. The inventory page is there to add value. What you're trying to do is to encourage people to reach out to you and work with you. And one of the ways you're encouraging them to do that is to show them what's possible in the community. You can even show them some sold properties. You can say, look, here's one that recently sold. Here was the list price. Here was the sale price. Here's the financials on it. This is what's possible for you. I think it is better to show actively listed properties, but I've created booklets that actually had sold properties in there just to prove a point. Okay, but excellent question, Ken. Thank you very much for that. Okay, this is Peter. So hang on, Peter. Let me go back. Okay, Peter says, have you seen certain styles of the booklet attract more people? Saddle stitched, wire binded, black and white versus color booklets. Trying to keep costs down. They cost me $3.50 per book, not including postage. Okay, not sure if I'm overthinking. Peter, first off, check with your local KW offices. And if you're not, I know you're KW, but for anybody on the line here who's not Keller Williams, most Keller Williams offices now have there's a little mechanical device in the office. It's usually over by the copier and printer, where you can create your own booklet. So you take your pages of your booklet, you stick it in this thing, you bring down the arm, it's like a one-arm bandit, and it basically crimps and binds your booklet. And the reason that's important, Peter, is now you can create your own booklets. Remember, you're only going to do maybe 25 at a time. So in probably 20 minutes, you could have all 25 booklets crimped and bound, And now all you have to pay for is the paper and whatever your office charges you for printing, if that's the copier that you're using, the printer that you're using. So you just pay your usual monthly print charges, and that binder, the machine that creates the binding, is usually free. I've never seen in the office actually charge for it. So look for that first, Peter. Before you go to a printer, look for that. It's just a plain, simple spiral. Actually, it's not even spiral. It's just a circular binder that goes, it's like the black plastic kind, and that's all you need. If you want to get fancier, then you can go to a local printer, or you may have to go to a printer if you don't have that binding machine in your office. So that's part A. Part B, Peter, to your question, was color versus black and white. And I absolutely use color. Always use color. Color stands out more than black and white. Now, you don't have to use color throughout every single page, but use color like on your logos, for example. Always use color on your logos, and all the text can be in plain black and white. Okay. I would say, as far as what attracts people, you definitely want to have an attractive cover page. That's why the photo is so important. And that statement, where the smart money is, that's kind of important. But once you're inside the booklet, honestly, it's more about the content. I don't know that the format is as important as it is on the cover page, so much as content is important. Content is absolutely vital. So I would focus on really good, meaningful content. By the way, I've got another quick tip for you guys here. That this was not in the original booklet either, by the way. One of the things I learned to do is sometimes include something else that's of value. So what I might do is I might include a recent article that I found online that's relevant to real estate, like lending, for example, or new construction permits. Anything that was relevant for your marketplace, you want to include that. Maybe not in every single booklet, like every month, but if you're sending your booklet out and you're on your third booklet and you haven't had many responses, put in a recent article that you get online. Okay, that could be a pretty important thing to do. Okay, Russ says, I do not own a property. What should I use as an example? So Russ, yeah, again, use my example, or if you want to find one, um, find an example in your office from someone in your office. Do that, because then you have a local example. Okay. Um, let's see here. Oh, Dana's answer to the question, how many engineers does it take to change a light bulb? The answer is none. They're all too busy designing the perfect light bulb. Okay. And Lana says, bless you. Thank you. And Brian, a couple people you said, bless me for that sneeze. Thank you very much for that. Okay. The next thing I want to go over here is the follow-up. All right. Here's what I learned to do. Over the years, my results varied. It was kind of interesting. I mean, some years, some months I send this booklet out, I would get a lot of calls. It wasn't unusual to get 7 or 8 calls. Some months I'd get like 1 call or even no calls. Over the years, the average was 3 calls for every 25 booklets. But I didn't, looking back on it, I can tell you that I would say the average probably fluctuated by the season, also by the area. If I'm, up in, to Toronto, Ontario. Now, this year has been pretty mild up there. A lot of years the weather can be kind of brutal. I know in those brutally cold months of like February, the response rate will go down. But if I'm in an area like Orlando, the the response rate might go up in the wintertime because a lot of snowbirds are coming down to Orlando. Same thing with Phoenix. You might have an uptick in responses because you're sending this booklet to these chiropractic offices and dentist offices and so forth, and clients come in who might not be from the area. They might be, their clients might be from Maine, for example, and they see this booklet on this dentist's desk or office or table or something on the counter, and you could get some. I've had that happen. I've had other people call me who I did not send the booklet to. They just happened to see it somewhere. That'll happen over time. You do this every month for a period of years, believe me, you'll have calls coming in from all over the place. But here's what I want to get to. The way to add high octane to this approach is this, and this came up, Peter. Thank you, Peter, for bringing this up last week. When you send out maybe your second or third round of booklets, and let's say you got 1 call or no calls or what have you, you're not getting a high response. Sometimes it's not necessarily the booklet. It's just the people you're sending it to. Remember, they're busy people. Okay, so what I like to do is this: when I'm in an area looking at rentals or whatever, helping people find a good flip, if I know that there's a chiropractor's office close by whom I've been sending the booklet to, when I'm done with my appointments with my current client, I'm going to go visit that local chiropractor, pop my head in, and I would write this down, okay? Pop my head in the door and say, hey, I'm Peter, or I'm Scott, or I'm Gary, or whatever the case is, Stuart, and I'm the one that's been sending you this booklet. What do you think? Have you considered, taking some of your hard-earned money and leveraging your investment activities so that you're not just in the stock market or mutual funds? Perhaps you can hedge your lower your risk by hedging your bets and go into real estate too. Now, typically, I would tell you this. That's just a sample conversation. Whatever you want to do, you want to put it in terms that's beneficial to them. And I can tell you a lot of professional people and business owners who invest in the stock market are kind of nervous right now, and they should be, all right? So you appeal to them in a way that would make sense to them. So in any case, typically the typical response is either neutral or non-committal. And don't be surprised by it, because you'll have a dentist saying, I appreciate you stopping by, but I'm kind of busy and I'm just not sure. Just do this. Hold up your hand briefly in a polite way and say, hey, no worries. This is not meant to put you under pressure. Let's do this. How about if I set you up on a search on the MLS, okay, for local properties in your area and your price range that might make sense, and you can look at it on your own. There's no cost, there's no obligation, and you can keep it as long as you want and look at it whenever you want. Okay, how's that? And usually they'll say, okay, sure, fine. Then what you do is you say, great. In order for me to find the right properties in the right areas in the right price range, I just need a little information. I know you're busy. Can I call you later tonight? And then you get their phone number. That's what you want to do when you visit them in person. Now you've got a high-wage earning self-employed service provider who just agreed to talk to you at night on the phone, and they've already got a couple of your booklets. Excuse me. Okay? So that's an important component of follow-up. You can use the booklet just in and of itself, and you'll get results. But I can tell you, if you add a little high octane to this machine, you'll get better results, much more results, and much faster by doing a little bit of follow-up. Okay. Now keep in mind, what I'm mentioning here, what I'm suggesting is go visit them in person. I would not call them over the phone until you've actually met them in person, because they could have non-solicitation rules, just like consumers have do not call lists. Okay. I wouldn't attempt to email them. They might see that as being intrusive. But you popping in the door, but just because you've been in the area and you've already have sent them some information prior to that, 1 or 2 or 3 times, that's not cold calling and that's not door knocking. All that is you being a good service provider and establishing a relationship and offering a service that's free and basically non-contact. It's non-threatening and non-salesy. Okay. So some of you hopefully are embracing that idea, because I know that it worked well for me, and I didn't make like a big event out of it. I didn't take like a whole day and go visit all these people. I would just stop in their offices if I was near the area. That's all I would do. Okay. All right. I think I saw some more questions coming in, so let me do a quick pulse check here. Let's see. The next one. This is from Paul. Hi, Paul. Paul says, to pull the different elements of the booklet together in one document, for example, pictures, text, charts, do you need a publishing program? I just use Word. Like this, what we're using right here, Paul, is actually in Word. It's just Microsoft Word. That's all it is. I have had students use a publisher program, and Microsoft has an excellent program. If you buy, in fact, I'll tell you guys this, before you buy your next set of software or when you go to buy your next computer, when you get Office, look for, there's different versions of it. There's Microsoft Office for students, for professionals, there's publishing software in some of those. So get the one that has publishing software, because you can make some really nice documents. This of mine is just very plain, and I think even a little bit rough. When I look at it now compared to what we see now, mine was very rough. You guys can to give me some feedback and say, Edgar, that's a pretty rough looking document, but it worked, So Paul, I hope that helps. I just would use, if you have a Windows-based computer, you should have some basic software on there that you can use. Apple's pretty good too, but I don't use Apple, so I can't speak to Apple. Let's see, this is Peter. Peter says, cool. I'm using the machines in the KW office now. I'm going to look at decreasing costs. Yeah. By all means, guys, your hard-earned commission income needs to be protected, all right? And, short of investing in yourself, all the other costs are going to be marketing related. And the reason I like working with these investors is I can do a lot of things that are free or very inexpensive. In other words, I would rather spend $2 on shipping and handling and a little bit of paper cost on a booklet, on 25 booklets, so that's $50, than spend $350 on 1,000 postcards or whatever the cost is these days. Okay. Okay, let's see here. This is Russ Smith. Hi, Russ. Okay, for tenants, do you want to use multi or single-family homes or a mix? For rentals. I'm sorry, for rentals. I like focusing on the multis, Russ. However, I actually owned a lot of rentals that were single-family homes. I owned more multi-units than I did singles. And also, there are clients out there who, believe it or not, they want to be in the rental business, but they want to focus solely on the single-family homes. Nothing wrong with that at all. At one point, I think I had 22 or 23 single-family homes that I was renting out. And I'll just give you a little bit of a brief description here. What I did, guys, is I didn't necessarily buy them to live off the rental income, because I was making more rents per building on my multi-units than I did on my singles. However, the single-family homes are great to hold in your inventory, because if you ever want to raise capital, sell an asset and cash out, it's much easier to sell a single-family home than it is to sell a multi-unit building, because your audience for buying multi-unit buildings is small compared to your audience of people who want to buy a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom home. So what I'd do is I'd hold them in inventory, I'd rent them out, just do enough to get them rented, and then if I wanted to raise some capital to buy a big building down the road, I would wait till the lease was up in one of my homes, single family homes, let the lease expire, make sure the tenants moved out, go in and remodel, put it back on the market as a single family home to be sold to first time home buyers, for example. And usually I'd sell it in 30 days, average 30 days on market. Okay. So it's a great tool. So back to your question, Russ, if you think you have clients who have an interest in renting single family homes, then by all means, put some of those in your booklet as examples. Another quick point here, guys, going forward, every month you've got to change out your inventory because some properties get sold, some go active, some go pending, and you want to make sure you have fresh content in there. Okay. Fresh inventory, because you never know, you might actually sell one of those properties one time. Actually, I did, and in fact, in this one here that we have on the line, the portfolio I put in the back, actually I sold that as a result of this booklet. Pretty interesting, Okay, I think I'm caught up on questions here, so let's do this, guys. That was pretty much what I wanted to cover tonight, the booklet. How do you locate the people to send it to, how you actually build the booklet. And, oh, by the way, back to the people that you send it to, how to narrow down that scope. If you have a medical background, you might want to focus on the medical community in your marketing activities. And you can find out their licensing status by going online to your state corporation bureau and see how long have they had their license, so you can narrow that down that way, okay? And then you produce your booklet, mail it to those folks, and follow up with some in-person visits. That's what I would recommend. And you should get some business out of that on a pretty consistent basis going forward. Again, it might fluctuate because you're in Maine versus Florida, or Phoenix versus Toronto, but you go with what the marketplace gives you. I know in Toronto, condos are a big deal. They have been for quite a while. Also, basement apartments. There are some bedroom communities of Toronto that are allowing in the zoning laws for individual homeowners to convert their basements into apartments. And there's almost no restrictions. It's crazy, but they're doing it. So whatever your marketplace is, whatever it offers, once you know that, you can customize your booklet to promote those types of properties. So keep that in mind. That's kind of a big hint there, actually. Okay, let me do one more quick check on questions, guys, before we call it a night. Let's see. This is Tammy asks, how many books should you send out to one person? Is there a point where you would stop sending if you haven't heard anything from them? Yeah, Tammy, here's my model was always been this on direct marketing, which is what this is, direct mail campaigns. You always want to send this out every single month to the same people until one of two things happens. Either they respond to you in months 2, 3, or 4 or 5, whatever, then now they become a prospect. So you now drop them from future mailings. Okay, so your number of mailings drops over time. And if they don't ever respond, then you stop at the 12th month. Okay, now here's an interesting thing that happens. I've had this happen almost every single month after a while. When I would get to my 12th booklet and I would no longer send it to that certain person, don't be surprised if you get a phone call in the next few weeks saying, hey, where's my monthly booklet? I've been looking at that. I've been meaning to call you. I've just been very busy. I've never had anybody call me and say, stop sending me the booklet. Either they go silent or they respond to you, or when you stop sending it in 12 months, they finally come out of the woodwork and say, hey, I do have an interest. I've just been busy. What can we do? So in any case, 12 months, Tammy, or until they respond to you. Okay, guys, I think that is pretty much it. If you could do me a favor, for those of you who want to cover a particular subject in the way of marketing, just let me know. Shoot me a message, text message, email, and what I'll do is I'll build a webinar based on that subject. Could be Craigslist, could be any number of things, right? The letter. The letter is always a hot topic. That letter has been coming up a lot lately. Maybe we'll cover the letter next week. How about that? So if I don't hear otherwise, we'll cover the letter next week. Otherwise, shoot me some ideas, and I'll put them in the hopper, and we'll go over whatever you guys want to go over when it comes to marketing. Okay? All right, folks. Well, I appreciate you participating. I I appreciate you being in the program, and I enjoy the opportunity to help you. Jen says, please cover the letter. Okay, Jen, we'll do that. I thought that was going to come up because it's come up lately from other students. But give me some feedback, give me some input, guys. The more I hear from you, the more I know how to tailor these webinars to your needs. And don't forget the one-on-ones. By the way, I'll give you a big hint. Tomorrow afternoon around 2 o'clock Arizona time, I'll be driving to Albuquerque. It's about a 7-hour drive. So if anybody wants a one-on-one, that'd be a good time. And then the following Tuesday, I'm driving from Santa Fe back to Phoenix. So that'll be another good time to get some one-on-one time in. So keep that in mind. You've all got my number. Again, it's 412-680-3618. All right, folks, hope you have a wonderful evening, and I'll look forward to seeing you next week, which, by the way, is going to be when is next week's webinar? I'm not seeing it in my book here. Hang on one second. It might be Monday night. Oh, you know what it is? It's Monday night this coming week, Monday night the 29th. Okay, I'll see you on Monday night. Have a wonderful night, and we'll see you then. Okay, bye-bye.